I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. New Brunswickers will head back to the polls on October 21st for the next provincial election. Here to tell us more about her party and their platform is the leader of New Brunswick's Liberal Party, Susan Holt. And we will be joined later in this show, Susan, by Lyons, who is your candidate for St. Croix. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Vicki. Thanks for having me.
It's election season, so I have to do fairness in terms of questions, ask all the leaders and candidates the same questions. So to start off with, Susan, can you tell us what you think are the most pressing issues facing New Brunswickers today?
Yeah, certainly. The most pressing issue facing New Brunswickers today is the healthcare system. We hear it in every community. We hear it at almost every door. People don't have access to care. Most New Brunswickers, 180,000 New Brunswickers, don't have a family doctor. And even the people who do have a family doctor, they can only get in to see their doctor within 5 days, 30% of the time. So that's not timely care. And then you want to talk about the folks who are going to the emergency room while they're waiting hours and hours and hours and hours. And so people are getting sicker, and they're getting more and more frustrated with the wait for care. And so we have to tackle that healthcare system. It's pervasive across people's mental health, across senior care, across specialty care. The whole system is broken, and New Brunswickers would like to see their government, who's taking their tax dollars, ensure that there's a functioning healthcare system to keep us and our families well.
And that definitely leads into the next question, is how would your government address the shortage of healthcare professionals and improve services across the province?
Well, we just made an announcement today, actually, about the solution that the whole team is going to implement, because it's clear that the system is broken. It's clear that too many New Brunswickers don't have care, and it's costing us time and money, and it's costing people's lives. So we've been out there listening to family doctors and nurse practitioners and pharmacists and physiotherapists and administrators and patients, and everyone's saying the same thing. They need care in their community, close to home, available at the right time from the right people, and that should be a team-based practice. They want collaborative community care. So we have committed to supporting 30 new collaborative care clinics across the province, and that'll help us get the wait list for care down. That'll help get the wait for family doctors down. Those people who are calling to try and get an appointment within 2 or 3 weeks should be able to get one within a day or two. And that takes pressure off the ERs that are filled up with people who have nowhere else to go. So we're going to do that urgently, because the current government hasn't acted on the primary care crisis, and it's creating a huge snowball effect in the rest of the system. We're going to get these 30 care clinics up and going and support the people who are caring for New Brunswickers.
The next question is, the housing crisis is a significant issue in New Brunswick. What strategies would you implement to increase affordable housing and address homelessness?
Yeah. We talk about healthcare being the #1 issue we hear. Right behind it is housing and housing affordability and the cost of living. So there isn't one strategy that solves everything. We have a whole bunch of different pieces that we think need to come into play. One of them is a rent cap. Rents have gone up more in New Brunswick than anywhere else in Canada. I think 10.5% just last year alone. People can't keep up with their rents increasing to that rate. Their wages certainly aren't increasing at 10% a year. And so we think a reasonable rent cap has to be put in place to protect tenants, give certainty to landlords, and help make sure that apartments are affordable in New Brunswick. That's one piece of it. We have to look at the affordability of housing, and so we have folks who can't pay their property taxes now. Property taxes have gone through the roof pretty much everywhere in New Brunswick, and so we think we need a complete overhaul of the property tax system. We need to make sure that we're doing assessments properly, and then we have to look at all the categories of property tax, the rates of property tax, how transparent it is, and make sure everybody is paying their fair share, because we do have some folks who are exempt of property tax now, and it turns out to be New Brunswick residents and homeowners that are footing that bill. So we've got to fix that system. And then we actually have to build more housing. Right? If we want to get the price of housing down, then the government needs to get involved in building public housing that is affordable and supporting the nonprofits and the cooperatives that are building not-for-profit housing and supportive housing. So that's another piece of it. And then the fourth critical piece is a real partnership with municipalities. They're on the ground, they're doing the work, they know which buildings in their communities are empty and that maybe has an owner from away that we need to talk to about getting that asset into use. They know where there's opportunity for development, they know who the partners are, and we can change some of the regulations on the ground to really support and incentivize the right kind of development in each community. And on top of that, we're going to take the tax off of housing developments. So we want to incentivize people to develop more housing. So that touches the housing affordability piece, but the homeless piece is an additional piece. So preventing people from finding themselves in homelessness is what a rent cap should do and what housing affordability should do. But we need solutions for people who are experiencing homelessness today, and we have not built out either the places where they can recover and stabilize and deal with whatever mental health issues, addiction issues, safety issues, or family issues that they're experiencing. So we need those residential treatment facilities, and we need to support the folks delivering those services in community. And the other piece that worries me, and the folks here in this community will be no stranger to it, is that winter's coming practically during the election time, right? If there is a new government, they're going to be sworn in November, and they'll have to move really quickly to make sure that we have the kind of shelter infrastructure that makes sure that nobody dies in the cold in New Brunswick next year.
Question 4. What are the biggest challenges facing New Brunswick's education system, and how would you address them?
There's a lot of challenges in the education system, and I'm a mom to 3 kids, so I have a 12-year-old going into grade 7, a 10-year-old going into grade 5, and a 6-year-old going into grade 2. So we see it in elementary schools and in the middle schools across the province. And I took the time to do an education tour back in the spring, where I went to junior highs, middle highs, elementary, preschool, went to the universities where they're training teachers to really try to understand what's happening in schools and where do we need support. And the answer was clear. We need people in schools. We need teachers in classrooms. We are short more than 500 teachers in the province, and so we are not resourced to deliver the kind of education that our young people deserve. So we need to fill the vacancies, right? It starts with getting teachers and others into those schools, because we are short school psychologists, we're short guidance resources, we're short resource teachers, we're short space. We're short clean hair. So I think it starts with putting the right professionals in the classroom so that every kid's needs are met by a team of professionals that is going to help make sure that they can read and that they can add and that they can do the things they need to succeed in life. And then we need to stabilize the system, because teachers have told us there's been new program after new program. All of it comes with administration, with another form to fill out, and they can't juggle another piece of administration while they're trying to handle a classroom burgeoning with people speaking different languages, people who have multiple health needs. We need to stabilize the system for our teachers, not put another new program on them, just give them the hands and the helpers that can make sure that every kid is getting the chance to learn to read and get the right start in life.
I always feel bad not doing follow-ups, but this is the nature of these.
Well, and I give you these long answers, and so there's so much to dig into, but I appreciate the consistency that you're giving each of us.
How does your party plan to tackle climate change?
Climate change is a really, it's been a problem for a long time, and one that's the can has been kicked down the road year after year, and even more so now. We're hearing New Brunswickers who, because they're so challenged to make ends meet, they are not interested in talking about climate change anymore, but it's coming nonetheless. And so we think we've got to reduce emissions, right? The number one contributor to climate change is the emissions that we're putting out. And so I think the government has to start by taking a leadership role and reducing its own emissions, right? We could address government fleet. All of the different cars, plows, things, buses that the government supports could be electrified, could be transitioned, and so could government infrastructure. So the schools we're building should be green buildings and shouldn't produce more emissions. And same with healthcare clinics like I just talked about. That's a piece of it, right? Get our behavior right. we need to put incentives in place for folks to change their behavior. So if we want people to emit less, then it's not just with a stick or a penalty that we do that, it's with an incentive, right? Why would I buy an electric vehicle? Well, because I'm making it more affordable for you to do that. Or why would I choose a bike or a bus? We have to incentivize people to change their behaviors and make that attractive. So we need to have that package of things that make it less expensive to make a green choice. We have to conserve more land. We have to make sure that our Clean Air and Clean Water Acts are modernized so that we're properly protecting those critical resources. And then we've got to really dive into climate change mitigation strategies. And in New Brunswick, that means coastal erosion, which you would experience here in St. Andrews and along the riding of St. Croix. We see it up in the peninsula. We see it. I mean, New Brunswick's very coastal. So coastal erosion is a critical one that we need to be taking active steps to mitigate against. Same with forest fires and flooding. Right? While we fight climate change, we have to make sure we're protecting New Brunswickers from the impacts that we're seeing every year.
And we are at your final question now, which means you have up to 7 minutes to answer.
Okay.
So if you want to
I can slow down.
have another or address anything that's even off topic, feel free. What specific plans do you have to boost economic development in New Brunswick, particularly in rural areas? And again, feel free to use the 7 minutes as you wish.
Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate that question because I think the ways we've been doing economic development in New Brunswick are a little bit backwards, right? They're coming out of Fredericton. They're coming out of the provincial government, who tends to like to tell regions or to tell the province where the economic growth is going to come from and pick the winners and losers by who they decide to give money to. I think it's communities that know where the growth opportunities are, that see the potential that maybe somebody in Fredericton can't see because they're not here living it every day. And so we want to see real community-led economic development where the entrepreneurs of a region say, this is what I think we could do and this is who we could be. And then I think it's the government's job to get behind that and support it. But a critical piece when you talk to entrepreneurs about what they need to grow is people. Right? They need the workforce, the sales folks, the people to build the product, to help them develop it and get it out to their customers. And right now we're in a real labor crunch in New Brunswick. So we have to make sure that we're training people and making sure that the skills match where the economic opportunities are. And government can play a role in making sure that kind of education is available and affordable in our colleges and universities and beyond. I hear from entrepreneurs that the cost of doing business is really high. So we want to be really vigilant about competitiveness in New Brunswick and what it might cost people to get their goods to where they need to go. It's why we're really excited about the growth of the Port of St. John, right? That's giving entrepreneurs an opportunity to get materials in, to possibly build new stuff. We could have an inland port opportunity that means we're going to reach new customers in new places with a really low cost and efficient transportation solution. So that's a piece of it. But really it's about listening to the entrepreneurs in the communities who are telling us where the growth is and then getting the government to back it with the right kind of like the people available, the right transportation infrastructure, the right regulatory environment, and sometimes the kind of capital that helps de-risk it so that the growth can come. But not by Fredericton deciding, by entrepreneurs and local community members saying what growth they see in their communities.
We have about 3 minutes left, so any final thoughts before we are joined by Troy Lyons, your candidate for St. Croix?
Yeah, I'd love the chance to talk about a little bit about what I just talked about. It's a shift I think we need to make government-wide because we've centralized a lot over the years. We've Six Sigma'd, things to death, and so they've found the most efficient way to do government. But when all the decisions are being made in Fredericton, go figure that we're not getting solutions that fit in places that are different. So one of the things that I'd really like to change with our government, if we have the privilege of forming government, is that we have to make sure that it's municipal leaders, local partners, local MLAs that are speaking up and driving the change on behalf of their community, and that Fredericton and people like me are listening, not dictating what they might know best. And so that's true in healthcare, right? Where do the clinics go? Who are the professionals in those healthcare clinics? They're going to help us cut the wait times because they know best where it should be and who the right professionals to gather are to serve the health needs of that community, whether they be seniors or kids or otherwise, right? We've got to flip it from being centrally driven and pushed out to being driven decisions, whether they be education, where the next school goes and who's in it, or healthcare or economic development. That should really be community-led, with these independent, feisty MLAs that will speak up and know that they can challenge the government, that they're not going to get fired or kicked out of cabinet because they voiced what their constituents voted them in to do, which is voice their community's needs, speak up on behalf of their neighbors. So that's a shift I think we desperately need, because most people are checked out of politics, right? They don't trust any of us. We're all the same, whether you're red, blue, green, orange. They're fed up, they're tired, and we've got to change if we want to get people to build trust in government and government's ability to serve them. And that means I think we need to behave differently, right? We've got to talk differently. We've got to be more available, more transparent. And that means you get good local folks who are transparent and authentic and are voicing the needs and the issues of their communities to a premier that is going to listen and is going to prioritize that perspective.
Well, that's a great note to end on before we bring Troy down to introduce to our viewers.
Perfect.
We will take a quick break, but when we come back, we will be joined by Troy Lyons, the Liberal candidate for the riding of St. Croix.
Did you know that Elections New Brunswick has used tabulation machines to count ballots since 2008? A tabulation machine digitally scans paper ballots. It is designed to assist in summarizing information marked on the ballots fed into it. To date, over 2 million electors have cast their secret ballots through these machines. Before each election, every tabulation machine undergoes comprehensive testing to ensure it is programmed correctly and can count votes properly for each candidate on the ballot. Elections New Brunswick conducts routine audits in each electoral district after Election Day by doing a hand count of sampled ballot boxes and compares these results with the results reported on election night. Since this technology was introduced, there has not been a single change to the outcome of an election because of tabulation errors. Get the election facts from your trusted election source. Visit electionsnb.ca.
Welcome back. We are now joined as well by Troy Lyons, the Liberal candidate for St. Croix. Susan, I'll start with you. Why is Troy the right candidate for St. Croix?
Well, I think Troy is the perfect candidate for St. Croix because he really blends and represents this diverse region well. I mean, he's a scientist by trade, right? A biologist who knows, the water and made a living and studying that kind of science, what affects our fish, what affects the livelihood of a number of folks in St. Croix. He's also got deep ties to this region for pretty much his whole life. Has had family here, and so knows different pockets, different people, how things used to be, how things are today. So he has a deep perspective on the history of the region. And I think most impressively to me, he's a really hard worker, just like the folks of St. Croix are. Troy has been out pounding the pavement and meeting his neighbors all across, and this is a pretty big riding, right? And he's been out there every day for more than a year, it feels like, working really hard, just like the people in this riding do, to listen, to understand what folks need, and to really balance that all, because there's lots of different perspectives in the riding. But as a scientist, as someone with deep ties to the area who knows how to work hard, I think he brings a great St. Croix representation to the team.
And Troy, well, both welcome to the show, and now I'll ask, why should people vote for you?
Well, in some ways I've been preparing for this my whole life, and as Susan mentioned, I live and work in the area, but also my ties go back for all my life, really. So I remember what the 70s and 80s were like, and a lot of great memories, and I've had the opportunity to meet some of those people over the course of the last number of months while I was door knocking. In working in the region, I actually work for government. I think it's well known. So in doing so, I've come very familiar with how government works, as well as ties with municipal or regional service commissions, as well as colleagues within other departments within the province. So.
Okay, and the last question goes to both of you. I'll start with Susan. Why is your party the right party to lead New Brunswick right now?
Well, I think New Brunswick is ready for a change, and that's something that I've now been doing with the Liberal Party of New Brunswick for the last 2 years, is refreshing the party, modernizing what we have to offer, bringing lots of different perspectives in from all sides, and really building a diverse team of folks, some who are former Conservatives, some who are former Green Party members, who all believe that now is the time for a government that is really more reflective of the people, kind of like Troy said, right? He knows how government works, and the folks of St. Croix need somebody in the system that's actually going to move the needle for them and deliver on the clinic that we promised for St. Stephen, who's going to know how to work with those bureaucrats and ministers and municipalities alike to do that. It's our team that has been on the ground listening and is really a centrist, diverse, broad alternative to the way that we're seeing politics move to the edges. I think that we care about the same things New Brunswickers care about, and we have made New Brunswickers' priorities our priorities. We're focused on healthcare. We're focused on giving every New Brunswicker a voice with a local representative that's going to speak up for them, and then we're going to bring people together. Because New Brunswickers are tired of division. They tell us that every day. They're tired of being divided, whether it's by north-south, urban, rural, French, English. They just want our province to realize its full potential with a government that's going to do that, that's going to see the beauty and the richness in all of our different areas and make sure every corner of New Brunswick can succeed with a different leadership style.
Mm-hmm. And Troy, the final words go to you. Why is your party the right party to lead New Brunswickers right now?
Well, I think it begins with Susan. I reached out to Susan back shortly after she won her leadership. She put an invite to anybody that was interested, but she spoke of transparency, which for me was a hook. We had a call, and the relationship developed from there, really. I think I know Susan has the ability to bring people together. She's a leader. And she's done that. She's developed this wonderful team, diverse backgrounds. We all have different skill sets. And I think that's what, if we all have the same skill set, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But we all have different backgrounds, and we listen to one another. And not last but not least, Susan listens. She listens to the people, the New Brunswickers, the team around her. So those are very big reasons why I really feel strongly about Susan and hopefully our next premier.
Well, that's how we're going to get things done, right? We get more done when we work together, and so I think we need a government that's going to work with everybody in order to serve New Brunswickers.
Well, I thank you both so much for coming in today and familiarizing our viewers with your party and your platform.
Thanks for the opportunity.
My guests today have been Susan Holt, leader of the New Brunswick Liberal Party, and Troy Lyons, the candidate for the Liberal Party for St. Croix. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.